It's been a couple of months, so it's time for us to do another luxury slash Hermes Q&A, which if you've been with me for a while, you already know the drill. These are the videos where I try to address all your Hermes questions, concerns, and dilemmas. I am just your virtual friend who is as passionate about luxury fashion as you are. So this is going to be just me rambling on and on aimlessly about anything and everything luxury. So if you have a busy day ahead of you, you can just put this video on in the background and listen to it as you would listen to a podcast. I won't be using that many visuals. It's just going to be me basically rambling, which I hope you don't mind. I love filming these videos because I really want to bring you videos that I know add value to your life, and whenever I'm able to address topics that I know you're interested in, I feel like that's the best of both worlds. It allows me to share my opinions, but my opinion on things that I know that you want to know about. And I actually had a chance to look at some of your questions earlier, and it seems like we have a lot of questions on designer fine jewelry. So I feel like part one of this video is going to be mainly focusing on designer fine jewelry, my thoughts on brands like Cartier and Van Cleef, what pieces I would consider investing in, and which ones I would really not waste my money on at this point. And then part two, I think it's going to be all about my Hermes shopping tips because we have quite a few questions. So if that sounds interesting to you, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Do feel free to join the conversation in the comment section down below. If you'd like to participate in future Q&As, make sure you follow me on Instagram and just keep on watching. First of all, a huge thank you to all of you who took the time out of your day to send me your questions. I really appreciate you. And as I mentioned, we have quite a few questions on designer fine jewelry. So why don't we start with one about Van Cleef. So the first question is, what's your opinion on the Van Cleef and Arpels Alhambra collection on guys, sweet versus vintage? So when it comes to Van Cleef, obviously it is a designer house that is probably most well known for its Alhambra collection. I think when you think of Van Cleef, you immediately think of Alhambra, and vice versa. When you think of Alhambra, you think of Van Cleef. Even though the brand has a lot more to offer, their collection of jewelry is a lot more diverse than just the Alhambra line, which I do actually have a dedicated video on Van Cleef, sharing a deep dive on their history, their heritage, how they gained so much popularity, what are the different lines that I would suggest looking at, and also sharing my in-depth thoughts on the Alhambra collection, which, long story short, I do think that it is an acquired taste. I don't think it is as universally flattering as, let's say, the Cartier Love range, which was meant to be worn on a daily basis, regardless of what else you have on. It was meant to be one of those pieces that you can style with anything and everything, unlike the Alhambra line, which I do think has a lot stronger of a point of view. I think the Alhambra line looks best when it's styled with a more formal outfit and more formal pieces of jewelry. It has kind of a stuffy ladies who lunch look to it, and I think it looks best really with a Chanel tweed suit or with a tweed jacket and a more structured ladylike bag. It's not nearly as flexible and adaptable as some other collections. I think it is something that will look out of place if you try to style it with a more casual outfit. I see people wearing these with jeans and a white t-shirt, and I always feel like that it looks really disjointed and out of place. It's not something that you can dress down, in my humble opinion. Now, when it comes to the Alhambra line on men, I did buy the sweet necklace and the sweet bracelet, which I really liked at one point. And if you have no idea what sweet and vintage refer to, it basically refers to the size. So the Alhambra line comes in several different sizes, and it's going to be the exact same motif, but sweet is going to be the smallest size, vintage is going to be slightly bigger, and there are also even bigger sizes, including things like the Magic Alhambra, which is quite oversized. I personally, as a guy, I would steer in the direction of the sweet range. I have seen men rocking the vintage line, but I always think that it looks incredibly out of place on men, especially when they are wearing the vintage 5 motif bracelet. I think it is such a soft and feminine look that it is incredibly hard to tweak and adapt, in my humble opinion. This is just my style and my preference. You buy whatever brings you joy, but I cannot recall ever seeing the vintage line on a man where I felt that it was really elevated and really nicely and seamlessly part of their style. So if you're going to go for the Alhambra line, check out the Sweet range. I think the Sweet bracelet is a really cute little amulet-like motif that you can wear as a lucky charm, and the bracelet you can also stack. So if you already have, let's say, some stronger, heavier, more bold pieces of jewelry, those would be a nice way to anchor your Sweet pieces, but I do think it looks really cute by itself. Or if you're going to buy the Sweet Alhambra pendant, which comes in a ton of different colors, I would suggest styling it with a really heavy, chunky, oversized knit, just to kind of counterbalance that really delicate look and feel of the Sweet Alhambra pendant, which I would not suggest stacking because I think there would be just way too much going on. So as a guy, I personally prefer the Sweet range, or if you're open to exploring different ranges from Van Cleef, the Zodiac range I think is an incredible line that of course is available both for men and women. I don't think labels really matter. You should buy whatever brings you joy. But the Alhambra line is just personally not my favorite. But the Zodiac range, I love the chain that Van Cleef sells separate, but it's technically designed to go with those Zodiac pendants, so that is definitely a range that you could look into if you're looking for a necklace, which I would personally prefer. Or if you're looking for something that is as iconic to Van Cleef as the Alhambra line, but is a little bit more unexpected, something that's really fun and playful. I do love the look of the lucky animal little charms, which they're not technically charms. They're brooches and pins that you can not only wear on a jacket or a blazer, but you can also put them on a bag and different accessories. So if you want something that is really quintessentially Van Cleef, but is not nearly as overdone or as predictable as the Alhambra line, the lucky animal charms are incredibly cute, and they are also rooted in the heritage of Van Cleef. What is your least and most favorite Cartier product? Which this is an easy question. If you've been with me for a while, you know that my most favorite range from Cartier is the Panther, the Cartier range, which here I'm not talking about their watches. I am personally not a big Cartier watch fan, but I do love their range of jewelry that is inspired by their mascot, the Panther, which I feel like if Cartier heard that I am referring to their iconic symbol as their mascot, they would probably faint, but you know what I mean. I do love the Panther range. I think it is a little bit too loud for my personal taste, but I still can appreciate it from the far. I think the artistry, the attention to details, and that bold statement look that these pieces will add to your collection is unmatched when it comes to other Cartier pieces. And there are two things that I would start your collection with. Either a ring, which I have two favorite rings from the Panther range, one of which is a little panther that sits on your finger, and the ring part that wraps around your finger is actually the tail of the panther, which for some weird reason the Cartier pieces don't have the most imaginative names. That's why I have to kind of describe what they look like because they don't have a unique name. I feel like all of these pieces are just called the Panther ring, but there's one that features the entire body of the panther with the tail wrapping around your finger, and that being the actual ring part. And then there is another one where the panther head bites onto this almost horse bite looking thing. That is another piece that I really like, which I think either one of these would make an incredible pinky ring. Or another thing that I really like from the Cartier line is the Trinity collection, which is incredibly understated, yet is really quite well known. I mean, if you're a Cartier fan, you will spot a Trinity piece from a mile away, but it is not as widely recognized as something like the Love range. So I would suggest looking into the Trinity range. I really like their simple, basic cord bracelets, which I think are a great layering piece. Or I am also a big fan of the Trinity rings, but I happen to like the ones that are set with pavé diamonds. So the Trinity rings will feature 3 different shades of gold or some sort of a finish. They also do them in ceramic, but the original Trinity rings will feature 3 different shades of gold: yellow, rose, and white. And they also have a version where the white gold part is set with pavé diamonds, which is my personal favorite. Now, when it comes to my least favorite range from Cartier, it is by far the Love bracelet, not because there's anything wrong with the design itself, even though it's not, I mean, the most, I guess at the time when it was first launched, it was ingenious and it was really innovative, because if you're not familiar with the history of the Love bracelet, it was designed at a time when people didn't really buy just one-off pieces of jewelry. Everything was kind of part of a set. So if you wanted to buy a piece of jewelry, you had to buy, or it was suggested that you also bought the matching earring, the matching necklace, the matching ring, and you were supposed to wear everything as a set for a special occasion. Whereas the Cartier Love bracelet was the first piece invented by a prominent designer house that was supposed to be worn on its own without a full-on matching set. So it was really a unique and innovative idea, but I think at this point it has been incredibly overdone. And I don't love the fact that anytime someone wants to buy a piece of designer jewelry, they immediately go to the Love bracelet without thinking twice. It has kind of become a default, which I think is why it feels just a little bit overdone. And when you're spending so much money on a piece of jewelry, I want you to have a unique experience, and I want you to buy something that either you cannot find anywhere else for a fraction of the price because the quality is so outstanding, or because you are getting something that is unique and you won't see on every other person. So personally, the Love range is just not my favorite at this point. Is it the worst thing that I have ever seen? Definitely not. Even I bought into this range at one point, and I completely understand the temptation, but I feel like when you're spending so much money on a piece of jewelry, I want you to be one in a million, not one out of a million other people who own the very same piece in some shape or form. So for me, it's the fact that it has become a default that is what I have the issue with, not the actual piece itself. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I just think it's kind of an underwhelming, predictable, and kind of overdone piece at this point. Let's switch gears for this next question, because I have seen this question pop up not only on Instagram but also on my YouTube, which is a question asking me to share my fragrance slash candle collection, which I have to be honest, I don't have the most extensive fragrance collection, and there are 2 reasons for that. Number 1, I really want my fragrances to become, in a weird way, an extension of my personality. I want my friends to be reminded of me whenever they smell some of my favorite fragrances on someone else. I want it to become kind of my signature, and I feel like if I change my fragrance every other day, it won't really become enmeshed with my personality. So I'm really loyal to the fragrances that I have. That's reason number 1. And then number 2, I have a really hard time justifying paying a lot of money for a bottle of fragrance, because I worked in fragrance development, so I am very much aware how much it costs for most fragrance houses to produce a bottle of fragrance. I am very familiar with the cost of fragrance oils, how much it costs them to produce the fragrance itself, the bottle, the packaging, and the whole shebang. And I can tell you it is a fraction of the retail price. So, you know, if I am willing to spend a lot of money on a bottle of fragrance, it has to be incredibly good. And some of my favorite fragrances that I am loyal to are Comme des Garçons Black, which I think I have been wearing since senior year of high school, and it was the only fragrance I wore for about a year until I was introduced to Margiela by the Fireplace, which is still something that I am extremely loyal to. I always have a bottle of Margiela by the Fireplace on hand, which, by the way, if you're looking for a really subtle, subdued, intimate fragrance, I am not your guy for recommendations, because all of my fragrances are really rich, really bold, warm, smoky, kind of dark, and they are fragrances that will enter the room before you do. So please do keep that in mind. All of these fragrances will linger and they'll stay on your skin, and even if you give someone a hug, it will stay with them for a little while. So that is just something for you to keep in mind. But Noir from Comme des Garçons I love. By the Fireplace is one of my signature scents. I think one of the more recent additions to my collections was Black Matter from Louis Vuitton, which I am still really enjoying. I also liked the scent of the raw fragrance oil in the scent W, but it's not something that I would suggest that you spend your money on because it really doesn't last long enough to justify the ridiculous price tag. And speaking of ridiculously priced fragrances, another new scent that I love is by Frederic Ma, which is called, I think it's called Moon. So that is another scent that I love. I also really enjoy Lush Cherry by Tom Ford in the winter. And then when it comes to candles in fall winter, Diptyque Narguilé is by far my signature scent. I have this burning in every single room of my apartment except my living room where I usually have Diptyque burnt, which Diptyque is also right behind me. I just have the black jar, which is hard to see on camera, but Narguilé and Bay are some of my signature scents. And then another brand that I really enjoy is Fine Scents. They have a fragrance called Mayfair Affair, which I think you would really like in the fall winter if you like things along the lines of Narguilé, but you find Narguilé just a little bit too spicy and you're looking for something a little bit more fruity. Mayfair Affair is something that I would highly suggest that you give a sniff from Fine Scents, but Narguilé and Bay are some of my signature scents when it comes to candles. And I would say that my top 3 fragrances at the moment are By the Fireplace from Margiela, Black Matter from Louis Vuitton, and then also Frederic Ma Moon are definitely my scents. So if you want to know what I smell like, you can give one of those fragrances a quick sniff. Best Hermes jewelry to start your collection, which is a great question. First of all, I would recommend checking out. I do have a deep dive on some of my most worn pieces of jewelry from Hermes, which I can make sure to link up here and also down below for you, where I share a ton of close-ups and some of my most favorite pieces. But when it comes to fine jewelry from Hermes, the range is divided into 2 parts. So you have pieces made of sterling silver and pieces made of gold. I am not the biggest fan of spending money on silver pieces because I think they are insanely overpriced. I would much rather save a little bit longer and spend on a gold piece that will last a lot longer, unless you're buying a statement piece, in which case obviously it makes sense for you to buy something made of silver, which costs you $5,000, whereas if you bought it in gold, it would be closer to $50,000. So I completely understand that when it comes to more chunky, heavy statement pieces, silver is a little bit more accessible than gold. But if you're buying rings and pendants, I do think that gold, even though it's going to be a little bit more expensive, it is worth the investment in my humble opinion, because it won't tarnish, it won't change color, it will not chip and scratch quite as easily as silver will, and I do think it will add a lot more to your collection. So when it comes to gold pieces, I do think that you cannot go wrong with the Shandong ring, which I stack with almost every single ring in my collection. I think it's one of those pieces that you can stack with other Hermes pieces or even pieces of jewelry that you already have in your collection, and it will elevate anything that you style it with. So that is a great piece to start your collection with. When it comes to newer launches, there is a new ring that is inspired by the Kelly Sango, out of all things. Obviously the classic Kelly collection is inspired by the twist closure of the Kelly bag, but there is a new ring that they are doing in solid, I think, rose gold, and in rose gold that is set with pavé diamonds. Obviously, there is a big price difference between the two. I think the solid gold version is around $5,000. And then if you decide to pick it up with pavé diamonds, it's closer to $10,000 or $11,000. So the price jump is quite big, obviously, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those pieces. And they are inspired by the Sango of the Kelly bags instead of just the twist closure, which I think makes it a lot more fun, a lot more playful. I love the fact that these pieces are a little bit more fluid and they have they're a little bit more eye-catching than just a plain old Kelly ring, which is the one that I am wearing today. So those are also a great piece to go for, but really anything Shandong you cannot go wrong with. And if you would like more recommendations, again, my deep dive will be linked down below for you. And one more thing, if you can get your hands on any one of the Gallop pieces, I think those are some of the most underrated pieces from the Hermes jewelry line, because the craftsmanship, the attention to details when it comes to the Gallop line is truly outstanding. Now, obviously, you do have to be a big fan of horses because they are inspired by the brand's equestrian heritage. But if you love horses, if you love pieces of jewelry that are really crafted like a piece of art, that is a great line that I would love for you to look into. Can I just hang out with you forever? What a sweet question. Well, I am not planning on quitting YouTube anytime soon, so twice a week, every Thursday and Sunday, you can hang out with me, and I can even make longer videos. I'm not planning on going anywhere, so twice a week you will definitely see me around, but I feel like I would be a lot after a while, so you do not want me forever 24/7. And then I saw one more question that wasn't Hermes related, so I thought we could end part 1 with that question, and then part 2 is going to be all about Hermes, which we had a question on missing your videos about the row, which I am missing those too. The reason I haven't done one in quite a while is because I haven't been to London. I usually go to London. Well, I don't go to London to talk about the row, but whenever I'm in London, I will stop by one of their flagships. The row has 3 flagships around the world. They have one in London, they have one in LA, and then they also have one in New York, which obviously you can buy the row at different department stores and different multi-brand stores, but I always love going to one of their flagships to discover the latest collections, and I have not been to London in quite a while. I am planning on going probably early next year. I don't have anything booked, it's not set in stone, but I would love to go early in the year next year, so I'm definitely going to do a video then. And in the meantime, I could share with you some of my most recent The Row purchases, which I don't have a lot of, but I could share with you some of those pieces that I bought in the past few months. There is a sweater, a pair of pants, and then I am planning on buying a bag from the row, which I'm not going to reveal what it is just yet, but I can share with you some of my most favorite recent launches from the row. So they have recently launched the banana bag in suede, which I am insanely tempted by. I did buy the banana bag in nylon, I think last year, but I ended up returning it because it was in the larger size and I didn't feel that the price was justified for a nylon bag, so I ended up returning it, but I still very much love the shape, and they're doing it in suede this season, which if you have been watching me for a while, you know that I am the biggest fan of suede, even though I don't even have that many pieces in suede, but I just adore any unique textures and unique finishes. I love things in tweed, in cashmere, and in suede, especially when it comes to bags. So that might be something that I have to add to my collection. They are doing the Margot bag in a deconstructed finish, which is just so insanely special. I have been tempted by the Margot bag. I did actually look at it not last time I was in London, but the time before. And I told you guys that I didn't buy the Margot bag because I didn't feel that the quality was where it should have been for the price, but it is a style I cannot get out of my head, and I do think that their quality is getting better and better with every single launch. Obviously they are a newer brand, so it's going to take them some time to figure things out, and even though I didn't really love the quality of their leather goods at the beginning, I think it is slowly improving, and the Margot is a bag that I cannot get out of my head. At this point, they're doing it in several different sizes. It is the bag that put them on the map. In my opinion, it's not the first bag that they ever designed, but it is, I think, their most popular and their most iconic bag at this point. They are doing it in a ton of different sizes. I think it starts at 10 inches. That's the smallest Margot. Then there might even be a smaller size, but I think 10, 15, and then 17 is the biggest one. I would definitely go for a Margot 17 in either suede, in grained leather, or I also love the look of the Margot inside out, which is half nylon and half leather, which I think they're going to be doing it in black for this upcoming season. So the Margot, I might have to add to my collection. It is a lot of money to spend on a bag, but it is a style that I just simply cannot get out of my head. I mean, it's been years and I'm still thinking about it. So maybe if I find it at a reasonable price during Black Friday, I'm hoping. I don't think it's a bag that would really go on sale because it is one of their iconic pieces. But if there is a special discount that they're doing for Cyber Week, obviously not, the row is not going to be doing it, but if I find it on Net-a-Porter or Matches, I might have to give it a try because it's something that is still very much on my mind. You know how much I love pleated pants from the row, and I also love their knits, but I am partial to their knits that are designed for women over their men's collection because their men's collection is a little bit more just kind of run of the mill, really subtle, understated, but it is a lot safer and a lot more traditional than some of their shapes and designs that they're doing for women. So when it comes to knits, I would definitely suggest checking out their women's wear because I'm pretty sure that almost, if not all, of my pieces from the row are actually from their women's line. My friends, this I think has brought us to the end of part 1 of this Q&A. Part 2 is going to be going live on Sunday. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below just so you don't miss part 2 of this Q&A, which is going to be all about Hermes.